Hey kids, Flexing Teacher Weber here. I hope you're having a good evening. We are starting our second unit of the year, our second big unit. This one is on fraction operations. So in this unit, we're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions and using those kinds of operations in multi-operation questions. Now, in grade 7, you would have added and subtracted fractions. And in grade 8, it's assumed that you know how to do that perfectly. But I always like to start with a little review of what we already know. So next few days, we're going to do a short review of adding and subtracting fractions. We'll start really basic. The most basic kind of question is same denominator fractions. So let's take a look at those. So a very basic example of same denominator fractions. Oh, I got to change that. So same denominator fractions, you'd have 28 over 40 plus 7 over 40. You keep the denominators the same, so you add up the fractions, the numerators of the fractions, and you get 35 over 40. So I added up 28 and 7, you get 35 over 40. And then you always reduce to lowest terms. The greatest common factor of 35 and 40 is 5. You divide the numerator and denominator by 5, and you get 7 over 8. Okay? Very basic, more grade 7 kind of question. And it works the same way with subtraction. So if you have 10 over 25 minus 5 over 25, the denominators are the same. So you subtract 10 minus 5 is 5. Common denominator 25. Divide the numerator and denominator by 5. And you get 1/5. Okay, so that's the most basic kind of addition or subtraction of fraction questions. Then we have questions where we end up getting an improper fraction that we have to deal with. So I'll look at this example, 7 over 9 plus 8 over 9. We already have a common denominator of 9, so we add up 7 and 8. That's 15 over 9. We have an improper fraction. I'm going to check if it's in lowest terms first, and I know I can divide the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3. And that gives you 5 over 3. Now, we typically don't want to leave a fraction as an improper fraction with a larger number in the numerator than the denominator. So we remember that this means divide. This means 5 divided by 3. Or how many groups of 3 fit inside 5? You'd get 1, remainder 2, out of what should have been a group of 3. Okay, so that's a typical question where you have to rename the improper fraction into a mixed number. Same thing here in number 4. So if I have 7 over 12 plus 10 over 12, I add up the numerators, I get 17 over 12. And then this means 17 divided by 12. Or how many groups of 12 fit inside 17? 1. Remainder 5 out of what should have been a group of 12. Okay, those are all same denominator questions. Now, what you really focus on a lot in grade 7 is different denominator. So the way I teach the kids to do these is it's really important the way they write the question. I want them to write one fraction below the other, and you'll see why that's important later on. Now, what I have them do is I have them divide their page up, and I call this part of the page scrap or mental math. And what we need to do in this question is our fractions don't have a common denominator. It's denominator 6, denominator 5. So we need to get a common denominator. Now, if the kids can do that by mental math, that's great. I really would like them to do it by mental math in grade 8. But if they can't, then what they do is they take denominator 6, denominator 5, and they start skip counting. So I'll skip count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20. And I'll count a little bit by sixes. 6, 18, 24. And I want to keep going until I get one that's the same. 30. There we go. 25, 30. So what I say here is the lowest common denominator is equal to 30. So if they can do this part mentally, awesome. I would prefer they did. I don't need to see that work. But what I want to see is this. I want them to take that lowest common denominator of 30, and we're going to create equivalent fractions with that lowest common denominator. So I'm going to do 6 times 5 will give me 30. 1 times 5 is 5. And 5 times 6 is 30. 4 times 6 is 24. And now I have two fractions with the same denominator that I can add up. So I add those up, 5 and 24, and I get 29 over 30. It's this right here, all of this stuff, that I would need to see. Okay, so we'll do a few more of these. Works the same with subtraction as well. Now it's really important the kids, I want that to be in blue. The kids write one fraction below the other. And I'm going to divide my page into scrap or mental, but a lot of the kids will not need to do this with scrap paper. They will be able to do it with mental math. But you have to do something, right? You can't just say, I don't know. If you can't do it by mental math, that's fine. Use scrap paper. And we need to get a common denominator for denominator 3, denominator 5. So I take my multiples, or my denominators, pardon me. I just sat on a clothes hanger. That was what that noise was. Okay, 3 and 5. And I skip count by threes. 3, 6, 9, 12. Skip count by fives. 5, 10, 15. There's my lowest common denominator. My LCD is equal to 15. So what I do is I take that lowest common denominator and I write both fractions with that lowest common denominator. Times 5 times 5. That's not right at all. So I'll do the first fraction first. What do I do to 3 to get 15? I times by 5. I multiply the same thing to the top and I get 5 over 15. And then I'll go down to this fraction. I got distracted, sorry. 5 times 3 gives me 15, so 1 times 3 is 3. And now what I have two fractions, same denominator that I can subtract. So I do 5 take away 3. And 5 take away 3 is 2, and common denominator 15. And it's in lowest terms already, so I'm done. Now, this fraction, or this work here, is what I would need to see when you do this assignment. This is how I would want to see it. Okay? So I'm going to do another video with a few more questions, a couple things that pop up. But that's all for now. I hope that helps. So the assignment you're eventually going to do is called Greek Decoder. And you'll do this in your notebook, and you'll show your work just like you've seen here. That's all for now. Trust me, I'm flexing. Flexing Teacher Weber out.